It's getting complicated, but it is a very complex issue. Dave Keating joins us from Brussels for more on this. Of course, Dave, our correspondent there at the heart of the EU. Dave, what's the latest you can tell us?
Well, the purpose of looking at this facility here in Belgium is to try to establish, exactly as you say, whether or not those doses that were intended for the EU went to the UK. There is a suspicion here that AstraZeneca is not being fully forthright about where those initial doses to the UK came from. It's thought that they were actually produced here in Belgium and also in Germany. And if that's the case, the EU is going to make the case that those shouldn't have been exported because AstraZeneca had a contractual obligation to start supplying vaccines as soon as approval came, and approval for the AstraZeneca vaccine is scheduled for tomorrow by the EU Medicines Agency. Now today we got a first outline of these so-called export bans that the EU is considering. The Commission says it's not an export ban, it's a transparency mechanism. Basically, pharma companies would have to tell the European Commission if they are exporting vaccines made in the EU out of the EU. Now, it's complicated about whether or not this is a ban. These type of trade transparency instruments are not all that uncommon, and usually just the sunlight of the company having to declare discourages them from, let's say, bad behavior. But you always need the threat to be able to block it. And so EU officials did today acknowledge that this mechanism, which we're expecting to come out tomorrow, would allow for, in rare instances, the Commission to recommend to a country, no, do not authorize that export because that company owes us vaccines and we believe those vaccines are ours, so do not authorize those leaving the country. This is going to be quite contentious, I think, when it comes out, but this is an effort by the EU to try to keep the doses that it believes it has been promised here in the EU on the basis of contracts. The difficulty is AstraZeneca or any other pharma company also has contracts with other countries. And if the EU blocks those exports out of the EU, that would mean AstraZeneca or any other company might not be meeting its contractual obligations to the UK or to Canada. So this is going to get very, very messy, I think.
Dave, you warned us about this, I think, some 48 hours ago, that this was going to become a very, very vicious battle over the lost doses of vaccine. The EU possibly to block millions of vaccine doses going to the UK is kind of what I've read. I think you've just hinted that that is something that could happen. And this kind of bad feeling that you were warning us about, which is happening now, going from bad to worse, all in the wake of Brexit, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brexit is the context that looms over all of this. The relations between the EU and the UK are really bad right now. In parallel, we're having this dispute because the UK is refusing to recognize the EU ambassador in London, and the EU is saying, okay, then we're not going to recognize the UK equivalent here. I mean, things are really, really bad. And so that's the context that all of this comes in, the mutual distrust. Now, so far, Boris Johnson and senior members of the government have held back from really engaging with this. They're insisting this is an issue between the EU and AstraZeneca. But the minute that the EU starts floating the possibility of limiting exports of this vaccine to the UK, that is when the UK government is going to get involved. And that's where there's going to be ferocity on both ends. That problem today with the German committee, we had this German committee today recommending that the AstraZeneca vaccine not be used for people over 65. That could be a way out of this vaccine war, actually, because I have a feeling, I don't know this for sure, but I have a feeling that the EMA tomorrow may mirror that German decision and only approve the AstraZeneca vaccine for under 65s. Most EU countries are not anticipating vaccinating healthy people under 65 until the second quarter. So it could be that in that scenario, the much lower amount of distribution that AstraZeneca says it's going to have to give over the next weeks, so maybe around a quarter of what was promised, maybe that wouldn't be an issue if countries only need those vaccinations for healthy people under 65 who are frontline workers, let's say. I have a feeling that the Commission maybe wouldn't want to start a trade war with the UK for doses that it may not even be able to use if they haven't been approved for people over 65, who are the people who are being vaccinated at this stage. stage. So that will be interesting to watch tomorrow with the EMA, as will the export restriction decision. And again, I think it's going to take some kind of action here to really get the UK government to push back hard on this. Right now, the UK government is trying to stay out of the fray, but that's probably not sustainable for much longer.
Indeed, a three-way battle it is set to become. Dave Keating in Brussels, thank you very much indeed, as ever, for explaining what is now becoming a more and more complex, a more nasty situation regarding the supply of vaccines across the EU and beyond. Dave Keating, our correspondent there in Brussels.